You don't start things and not finish them. You don't quit. There's nothing that comes out of quitting besides knowing that you didn't finish. We finish everything. You start it, finish it. If you're going to do it to try to be the best. Not to be better than other people, but to be the best for you. You grind hard so you can play hard. The work you put in will pay off. It could be a year, it could be 30 years, but you keep grinding. Welcome to Big Reptile Talk.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm super excited. How's everybody doing in the chat? Thank you for showing up. Today, we're talking to Mr. Robin. You know, he made the Reptile Report in Redline Science. Super excited to just kind of pick his brain, get to know him for a little bit. So let's bring him in here and just kind of get to know him. How you doing today, Mr. Robin?
Hey, Derek. How you doing, man? Good to be here.
Man, I can't call it. And I just really been enjoying talking to you backstage. You have some incredible stories. You've been in the hobby for so long. How long have you actually been in the reptile hobby?
Creeping up on 30 years. I started in 1993, and time flies so fast. I used to say 20 years, but I've been flying past that. And then I was thinking it must be 25. But yeah, another year and a half, it'll be 30 years. So it's been a little while.
30 years. That's incredible to say that you have been focused on something, man. So I got to ask this, man. You know, I want to talk about right now the Reptile Report, the origin. What made you say this is something that I want to start? And when did you start it? And did you see it being as big as it is right now?
I mean, I thought the Reptile Report could be big and influential, but it's actually not today. It's not what I thought it was going to be. That was not the plan. It's evolved, over 10 years. So we started it in 2011. And it had been an idea that I had been kicking around in my head for a while. But at the time we were still live reptile breeders with Pro Exotics Reptiles. So the main focus of my career at that point was breeding reptiles, snakes, lizards, a lot of ball pythons, handful of boas, had a Bolin's project. we were trying so hard to work on and get some success with. And then we also did a lot of monitor lizards and stuff. But in 2011, we had a fire at our facility and it wiped us out in one morning. I got a call at 3 a.m. From the alarm company. There's a fire at your facility. Fire department, police have been dispatched. And, I jumped up and threw on some clothes and busted over there. And it was still dark. And I was standing outside of our Pro Exotics facility and it was on fire. And so, over the next 24 hours, we saw everything that we had worked on for that 20 years, literally go up in flames. So that post-fire period, that like the next 6 months, my partner and I, Chad Brown, we had started Chippy Reptiles in 2009. So that had just been getting going, starting to gain momentum and was doing well. But that wasn't our day-to-day. Our day-to-day was breeding animals. So I thought, what are we going to do now? We don't have any animals to breed. Are we going to rebuild this thing? Are we going to, go back and buy animals? What are we going to do? And the reality was I found out that my heart was not into the live animal side in breeding at that time. Like I was so heartbroken, and that lasted for years. We lost 3,000 animals in the course of a morning and decades of work. And so, yeah, you're heartbroken. You're really fucked up. And it's kind of surreal moment. So you say, well, what am I going to do now? And so I told Chad, I said, hey, I've got that idea for, the Reptile Report. This would be an opportunity. We could kind of pursue that. It's an idea where we don't need inventory. We don't need, snakes and lizards. I don't need feeders. I don't need a facility. I can do it from the laptop. So, it's not something we'd have to scramble to do. I could literally start doing it tomorrow. And so we said, sure, let's give it a shot. So I mapped it out and we spec'd it out. And at the time, reptile forums were a real big deal in the 2000s. That's where all the action was. Facebook was just getting started on the reptile side. And so originally the Reptile Report was a aggregation of all the content around the reptile world from all of these different forums. Ball python forums, colubrid forums, kingsnake.com was the gorilla in the world at the time, I'm not sure it's even exists anymore. But that was the Facebook of the day was kingsnake.com. You had monitor forums. And so we would collect all this information from everywhere and put it into one feed and one website. And that was the idea. And so I hired some staffers to help me execute it. And we got after it, and it was popular right away. It did real well. And I was super pleased with it. But the seed of the idea came out after that fire that we had, because you have to find out a way to move forward.
Right.
What are you going to do now? Because you ain't not going to be breeding animals. So what are you going to do now? You're going to go fucking cry yourself to sleep in the corner every night, or you're going to pick yourself up and look forward and figure it out and move ahead. And that's what we did. Moved ahead.
I love that. So it's like in the midst of something terrible happened, something beautiful blossomed from it. And I want to, not necessarily to brag, but I want to inspire people. So to me, the Reptile Report is huge. Y'all showcase a lot of people. If you take a picture, it's on your Instagram, and number wise, it's incredible what you're doing. Like IG, you're almost at 100K on IG, and
Yep.
not just on IG, Facebook. You're this close to 1 million on Facebook, and that's incredible. So talk to me about those numbers. How does that make you feel having almost 1 million on Facebook and 100K on IG?
The Facebook thing was interesting. I remember hitting 50,000. I was super stoked when we got to 50,000 likes. And then I remember 100,000. And then I remember 500,000. Your brain kind of breaks it down into blocks, right? You got targets. Like, 673,000 is not significant. It's a big number, but I wasn't planning on 673. I wanted to see 500. I wanted to see 750. And then I'm looking for 1 million on Facebook. I'm just not sure when we're going to get there, because we've been in the 800,000s for at least a year and a half.
You're at 900,000. You're like 930,000.
Oh, is that right?
You above 800. Yeah, like
okay,
930. You're 930K.
So
I checked.
Number one, I'll be very excited when we hit 1 million, but it's not that important to me. Like the number. Well, I tell you what I am stoked about. I'm stoked about what it does, what the Reptile Report does. Now, again, back in the day when we started, the idea was to aggregate all this content from these other sources. Hey, here's a really interesting thread from ballpythons.net. Here's a real interesting thread from Bush League Breeders Club. Here's a real interesting thread from Monitor Forum or kingsnake.com. Or here's an interesting news story about reptiles. That was cool. What it turned into is really a picture and video feed. That's what people want to see. And those original sources, Bush League Breeders Club, I'm pretty sure you're not familiar with. It was a big forum back in the day, very popular, but those don't exist anymore. So now it's, we just share great photos and great video stuff. But the goal still is the same, in that we shine a light on breeders and businesses that are doing cool stuff and great animals. And so the best benefit is, like, you pick up some great chameleon picture from a small breeder that doesn't have any significant following, and you get 300,000 people to see that picture and check out that breeder. That's the real result that I love to see. I like to see that we can help these other folks, especially the smaller folks, get a bigger spotlight so they can be seen by a wider audience. That's right. Fantastic. That's a great result. I would much rather focus on that kind of an effect and result than throw a party for 900,000 likes or 1 million likes. Now, I do have a couple of staffers that help me out at the Reptile Report, and they do a fantastic job. My input is, I send them links and pictures that I like or come across my feed, but they really execute it. And so when we hit 1 million, because it is a milestone, I'm going to give them a bonus. I'm going to hook them up because they've been busting their humps for years, doing the job. And so I do appreciate it. But I tell you what, I appreciate the function and result of it in helping small breeders and smaller businesses reach a wider audience. I think that's always been one of the main goals, and that will always be my favorite part of the Reptile Report for sure.
Right. I love that.
Yeah.
Now, you have been in the hobby, like you said, 30 plus years. So I got to give you a hot seat question.
Good.
Now, we love everybody, but I am kind of curious. You see a ton of breeders, a ton of people in the hobby. So currently, right now, who is your favorite breeder?
I saw your interview with Jay Brewer, Prehistoric Pets, and you gave him the same question, and he had a similar stumped kind of response. Do I have a single favorite breeder? No, not one person that lights my fire, but there's a lot of folks that I really enjoy and I support and I get excited about for sure. I'll pull one kind of a esoteric, not very popular one that you probably don't know, and I would be surprised if a ton of your viewers knew. It's a colubrid guy. He's doing really crazy colubrids. His name is Rainer Dohren. Last name Dohren, I think it is.
Okay.
And he's doing like Applegate Pyros. He's doing Knobloch Eye. He's doing these really crazy bright colored colubrids. And for whatever reason, that gets my engine going every time I see his stuff on the Reptile Report. Right. Another one that's not a super huge name, but he's been around forever, and I fucking love this guy and his animals, is Bob from Ancient Reproductions. He does Argentine boas. That's another species that's not real represented in our hobby today. Back in the 90s at Pro Exotics, we bred Argentine boas. I've always loved them. It's a really great animal. And I'll put you on the spot, Derek. Do you know what Argentine boa looks like?
I've heard of them. I haven't actually seen one, but I've heard of them.
So you got to check it out because it's not a red-tail boa. There's some really fantastic red-tail boas out there. Argentine boa has a different pattern, similar body type, similar size, but it's like a black and white animal, except Bob's Ancient Reproductions, he has pink and red pulled into the boas. So I'm going to remind you after the show, you got to go look him up, and I want your viewers to look him up. Ancient Reproductions. He's got the most amazing boas that you'll ever see. I love anytime Bob has stuff come up. Another esoteric breeder, maybe it's not on everybody's radar, is Florida iguanas. You familiar with them?
I've heard of him. Yeah, I've heard of him.
Sam and Laura down in Florida. The name is Florida iguanas, but what they do that I love is they're giant tortoises. They do aldabras and big giant tortoises. And holy crap, that is some impressive stuff. Their animals are so amazing. I love them. So I love to see that kind of content. Sarpamitra is another one. My favorites, Matt Most. Did you interview Matt Most?
No, I haven't got him yet.
He's a great guy. He's doing colubrid stuff. He does a lot of the Porphyracea, which Pro Exotics, we helped introduce him to the hobby in the 90s and 2000s. He does Mandarin rat snakes, which are an absolute favorite of mine. Another visually stunning animal. In the end, I'm always probably going to go back to be a lizard guy. I'm always a monitor lizard dude. So Mike's Monitors, fucking love Mike and the stuff.
I know Mike. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah, Rare Earth, love them. We tried to, we did help bring Australian dwarf monitors into the hobby in the 90s. We were, among the first folks to breed those. At one point, we were probably the largest producer of Ackies in the country, if not the world. We were hatching 1,000 plus Ackie monitors a year. But Rare Earth, it continues to do that stuff with those dwarf Australian species. I love those things. And you know what else I like? Coming from the Reptile Report, especially the Instagram page, which you mentioned, there's a bunch of breeders and keepers from around the world that I get exposed to from the Reptile Report Instagram page that I wasn't hip to before. And like there's folks in Malaysia and Hong Kong that are doing unbelievable animals. This guy, Samuel Yu, he's on Instagram.
Okay.
You got to look his stuff up. He's doing monitor lizards, and the animals he's got they're phenomenal. Just super crazy colors, super bright animals. Animals look fantastic. But honestly, without the Reptile Report, it would not be on my radar. So thank goodness for the Reptile Report. Even I get benefit from seeing, who we cover and who we feature. So those are some of my favorite folks to follow. I'm a big fan of, the established folks of Ozzy, JD Constriction. I've known Kevin at Nerd forever. He's half insane, but he's a fucking good time. You have to have him on your show. He's done amazing animals. Jay Brewer's done amazing animals. Mike Wilbanks breeds amazing ball pythons to this day. There's a ton of mainstay folks, but sometimes you just like to see some of the esoteric stuff that's not really widely represented.
Right. With you being in the hobby so long, I gotta ask, are you doing any breeding, currently?
No, nothing at all.
Okay. Hey, nothing wrong with that. But we still want to talk about breeding. So let me ask you.
It never came back to me after our fire. That the inclination to breed animals, like I had already done that for 20 years. I felt like that chapter closed, and I was glad. And with the Reptile Report again, I can follow and cheer on everybody else. I don't have to try and keep up anymore, which is part of the breeding insanity. You're always trying to keep up with the Joneses, whatever Will Banks is hatching or whatever Mark Bailey's hatching or Chun Koo is hatching. God forbid I try and keep up with Justin Kubilka today. It costs you $1 million to try and keep up with these guys. So I'm happy to cheer for them from the sideline and be, big fans of their success. I don't have to breed the animals myself. And then, I have other companies now, and that keeps me real busy. I travel a lot, so it's not really feasible to be keeping animals, that I can't care for myself. I certainly have a fantasy list of species I would keep if everything was perfect, but it's not part of my life at this point.
Right. Nothing wrong with that. And you don't have to be breeding currently. You've done enough of it. You've been in the hobby so long.
Yeah.
So I can ask this to get a little knowledge. With breeding, how do you think that the breeding game has evolved? Talk to me, 30 years ago versus now. How have we evolved, in the reptile hobby as far as breeding?
It's exponentially different. I've seen some of your recent interviews and people talking about ball pythons. And I think somebody said any dummy can breed a ball python. That's pretty true today. That's pretty true. The technique and the process of breeding ball pythons is so well established. It's an easy animal to breed. Back in the 90s, that shit was difficult. It was just fucking hard, and we were terrible at it. When we started doing balls and boas and we did big giant snakes, we did berms and African rocks. I had 14-foot African rock pythons chase my employees out of the room coming out of the cage, like big mean animals. But even ball pythons, at the time, and there was just a handful of morphs, albinos, clowns, There was something maybe like a stripe. We weren't sure what it was. Something maybe like melanistic. Nobody really knew. I'm pretty sure I put my eyes on the first ball python, and I turned it down. They said, "You want to buy this?" And I said, "No. That's an ugly animal. And the white part's really interesting, but it was a wild caught animal, so it looked rough. It wasn't all that healthy, and nobody knew if it was genetic." That was one of the stupidest things I've ever done. Turn that down, but I think Pete Call ended up with it. But like ball python breeding is a great example. We would cool them down during the winter, and then come February, March, we would warm them back up in March, and you pair them up so that they can breed and do the work. And back in the mid 90s, late 90s, I mean, I'd pair a male and a female up in March, and I'd leave them there until August, hoping that it would work. Just the dumbest possible thing. Now, in the late 2000s, what happened is one of the key things was ultrasound came along, the ultrasound machine. And you could look inside the animal in the females and look at the follicles, which are what's going to turn into eggs. And so you could look and see, is she ready? Where is she at in her cycle? Is she going to be receptive to a male? And so once we had an ultrasound machine, that just changed everything. And so I went from pairing up from 6 months, one male, one female, to I pair a male and a female together for 3 hours because she's ready at that particular time. I can tell from the ultrasound. You can tell from palpating her. She's ready. You put the male in, boom, he does the work, locks her up, boom, boom, boom. 3 hours later, they're done. You take him out, and over the course of a week, you could put him through 15 females, no problem. And then you would also, like those females would be gravid. You'd get success. It was just so bad to look back on it in the 90s about how awful we were and how dumb we were. It's very humbling. And the other thing that changed that was the internet. Like we could start communicating with other breeders. Like, hey, I'm doing this pairing, or I'm doing this female. Her follicles are 10 mil, or her follicles are 30 mil, or whatever it is. What do you see at this point? How do you approach this? How do you deal with this issue? This male doesn't want to breed. How big does the male need to be? We could have all those conversations a lot easier. And before the internet, you were just kind of trying to run through the jungle with a blindfold on, and you just kept banging your head on all the branches and all the trees and making all the mistakes. So it's a lot easier now because we have so much access to information. That ultrasound was a complete game changer. It taught us about the animals. We were just dumb before. We just didn't know. Jay Brewer said it. You were just kind of clumping along because, when he started, nobody else knew shit anyways. He couldn't ask Bob Clark because Bob Clark's still trying to figure things out. And he couldn't ask Kevin because Kevin didn't know at the time. Like we were all trying to just figure it out, put it together. Now the information's so widespread and available. It's, breeding ball pythons is easy. But back in the day, it was a lot harder. We trying to figure that shit out. And there was a lot of failures before we started seeing success.
Right. Well, I love that we have come a long way now. Yeah. I like to have a little fun. You're giving us some amazing knowledge, but now I want to have a little fun. So I got to give you a hot seat question. Okay. Let's say I'm a movie director and I'm making a movie called The Reptile Report. Anybody in the world, who am I going to get to play Mr. Robin?
What kind of question is that, Derek? It's obvious. The answer is obvious. It's Stone Cold Steve Austin, dude.
Dude, you do look like Stone Cold. That's funny. I would actually pay to see that, wrestling with reptiles.
10 years ago, it was a lot more obvious. 10 years ago, 70 pounds ago, it was a lot more obvious. But I'll still say Stone Cold.
I would definitely pay to see that, man. That is hilarious, man. Shout out to Venom Wonderful, man. Thank you for that $5 super chat. I appreciate it. Much love to everybody that's super chatting. We have talked before, and you have done some real iconic stuff. Like temp guns, using Black Knight as a mic killer. Can we talk about some of that stuff? So you were kind of influential with the introduction of temp guns, right?
Yeah, we brought temp guns into the marketplace. I mean, there's a number of different brands now you can buy. Zoomed has a temp gun. Harbor Freight has temp guns. And our original temp guns are still out there. After our fire, we sold the temp gun business to Reptile Basics. So he took our molds for our PE1 and our PE2 unit, and he still sells those units. But again, this was back in the 90s. I bought my first temp gun from Tracy Barker. Tracy and Dave Barker down in Texas. They were kind of mentors for us as we were coming up. I've been in the game a long time, 30 years. Woo, 30 years. There's folks that have been in the game for 50 plus years. There's folks that have been around for 60 years. The Tom Crutchfield types have been doing it since they were little kids. There's folks that have been around a lot longer than I have. So a lot of those folks were mentors to us. But Tracy Barker was selling temp guns, and I bought one. It was $450 for a temp gun.
Jesus Christ.
That was it. I mean, that was the price, and you couldn't get it any other way. And so the idea that you could point this unit at a surface and tell the temperature, was brilliant, especially for Reptile application. Looking at hot spots and cool spots and basking spots and ambient temps and everything else. I mean, it was an amazing tool, but $400 was a little steep. And so I knew that not everybody could do that. Not everybody could spend $450. But I went and looked at some sources in China. And I said, I wonder if we can make these and if they exist cheaper. And I found a factory in China that was producing them. And, we went through a couple of iterations and designs, but our first temp gun that we brought to the market was $25. And so
that's incredible.
Yeah. And that was the goal. It was a simple unit. I mean, technically it's the same unit that Reptile Basics, bought from us. The PE1 unit was the basic unit. It didn't have a sighting laser or anything. You just pointed it and it told you the surface temp. But I thought at $25, now it's accessible to every keeper. Everybody can get one of these.
So you're telling me Tim guns used to be $500,
yeah.
But back in the 90s, you went to China, was able to kind of manufacture your own and put it in the market.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
that's iconic.
The technology existed, and it was the right timing because this factory was just coming on board with this smaller, less expensive technology that still accomplished the same thing. So, I mean, I'm not an engineer and I don't have any tech ability for designing shit, but I went, me and my partner Chad, we went and found this spot and we said, what can you do? How can you, what's our options here? And what models do we have available to us, the chips and the sensors? And hey, we want to design our own little case for it and everything else. And so, you go through the process and we made the unit and I was able to get it to retail $25, which is super amazing. And I ordered 3,000 units for the first order. And I thought, okay, 3,000 is a lot of units. We could be having temp guns for the next 50 years. Because you don't know sometimes. You buy some shit wholesale or you manufacture it or whatever. You don't know how it's going to be received. And I took those 3,000 units to a trade show a couple of weeks after I got them. And we sold out before Sunday afternoon. I was out. Done. And then I learned the lesson of manufacturing because it was going to be 3 months before I could get any new units in hand. You got to get them manufactured, and then you got to get them shipped, and you got to wait for the boat to come. And so, then I was sold out for 3 months. So that wasn't fun. But in the end, I mean, we sold well over 100,000 units. I forget what the number is, but we sold a ton of temp guns, and we did different models. We did a 1, 2, and 3. More features and more lasers and more expensive. So we sold shit out of temp guns for a number of years.
So right now, people that have temp guns,
yeah,
there's a good chance it's because of you.
Yeah, I mean that's true.
That's incredible. That's incredible, bro.
In the reptile world, yes, but technically, in the end, it's because of Tracy Barker. Thank you, Tracy.
That's wild, man. That's wild, man. Now,
yeah,
you haven't just done temp guns, man. You were instrumental in a mite killer. Like, can we talk about Black Knight, man?
Black Knight is a sordid tale of an insecticide that kills reptile mites. Fantastic product. I didn't invent it, but we brought it to the market. I don't actually remember the origin of it, how we came upon it. Somebody smarter than me was probably using it for mites. And we figured out that it did a fantastic job with snake mites. And for the most part, it did it really safely. Anytime you're working with insecticide and chemicals, I mean, bad shit can happen. But up until we had Black Knight, we were doing, I don't know if people are going to remember, you use the no pest strips. It's a big yellow rubber block for flies. You buy it at the hardware store. And it has a really noxious smell. But you would take a hefty pair of scissors and you would cut this 8-inch block up into 1-inch cubes, and you would put those in the cage with the animals, and that would kill mites. It would. It would kill any bug. But if you left it in the cage more than a few hours, it would also turn your snake loopy because it was so strong and essentially toxic. And so when we found the Black Knight spray, that was this great alternative because it was much less likely to turn your snake loopy. You could use it much more generously, and it killed the shit out of mites, mite eggs, mites in the racks, mites on the floor. You got mites on the animal, but you also have mites that go and lay eggs in the rack, in the tub, in the substrate. They walk, Dave Barker, figured out that the mites can walk like 30 feet in 1 hour. And so, if you find the mites in a cage in your setup, most likely they're all over the place at that point. They've already spread their reach. And so the Black Knight was super important. The problem was it conflicted with another product on the market, Prevenamite, which used a slightly different chemical. And Prevenamite owner, he didn't like that we had Black Knight. So it went into like a lawsuit situation. In the meantime, we had sold the crap out of Black Knight. We were the distributor for Black Knight. I mean, you're talking hundreds and hundreds of cases, not hundreds of cans, but hundreds of cases, maybe thousands of cases actually. And it was a fantastic product. But it ended up being a lawsuit against the manufacturer of Black Knight. They looped Pro Exotics into the lawsuit, and we played that litigation game for a while. We were out $75,000 out of pocket to try and defend ourselves and deal with that. And eventually, it just wasn't worth it in the end. I was making whatever $3 a can on Black Knight, but $75,000 ate up most of the profit we ever made on that product. Right. So in the end, it wasn't worth it. And the lesson I learned there is, whenever you're dealing with insecticide, the responsibilities and repercussions are much heavier. There was EPA issues and labeling issues and everything else. It just became a bigger headache than it was worth. And the company that had Black Knight, they took it off the market. And that was a real disappointment because it was such a valuable product. And they've come out with a couple different new iterations of it, but they don't sell it really in the reptile world. They sell it for other, bug killing uses. But I'm not aware of a fantastic mite treatment these days. I see discussions about how to kill mites and stuff. It's the same old, nonsense about using olive oil and water soaks and different things like that are marginally effective. So thank goodness I had a few cases of Black Knight stored in my house. So I used Black Knight 3 days ago to kill flies, because it still kills. It kills any insect. It fucking annihilates them. It kills roaches and it kills anything. So yeah, I've got Black Knight around the house that I can still use, but I mean, it's like a solid gold in a can for me. I've got, I think, five cans left. Once it's gone,
right. You
it's
ain't
gone
giving that
forever.
away.
And to anybody interested, no, you can't buy any of my Black Knight cans.
Right. Real quick, shout out to Venom Wonderful, man. I really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for the support. While you're here, please like, comment, share us out, super chat. Anything you got, I'll accept it. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. Man, this is incredible. So, I gotta ask you right now, being in the reptile hobby, can I ask you, what's your personal collection looking like?
Nothing. I don't keep anything, remember?
Oh, yeah, that's right. You said that.
But I'll tell you my dream collection, since you asked. If the world was different and I could keep some snakes, there are some dream species I'd love to work with again. Bolin's pythons. I would love to work with Bolin's pythons again. That is probably my number one snake species. And we did them as pro exotics. It's a nearly impossible species to breed. We never did figure them out. And even today, 20 years later, it's still one of the most difficult species to breed. And folks like Keith McPeak and Ari Flegel are trying their best to propagate them, but it's very, very difficult, very sporadic success, but one of the most impressive animals of all time. So I would keep Bolin's pythons. I would keep mandarin rat snakes. I would keep cockeye rat snakes, red mountain racers. I'd probably keep a couple of Uromastics, ornate Euros. I loved working with those. Uromastics are fantastic. I'd keep some Ackie monitors. That probably is about it. There's just everything that I would like to keep, I already kept.
Right. You've been in the hobby so long.
Yeah, but I sure would like to have them back. I'd love to be able to pull out a really beautiful mandarin rat snake and have a look at it and just enjoy keeping it. I would never try and breed. Again, propagation, I'm done with that. That chapter's closed. But to just be able to keep them and enjoy them, that would be pretty awesome. Ron St. Pierre, that's a guy you should probably interview. Down in Florida, he's been around forever.
I know who he is.
Yeah, he really did a ton of work with tegus in the past, but he's doing some anoles, those giant anoles that come in some crazy colors, albinos and these bright greens and blues. I'd be interested in keeping those, actually, and I've never kept them. They were still a few $1,000s each, so a little pricey for a pet for me, but yeah, most of the stuff I'd like to keep, I've done in the past. I would just love to revisit it and just keep it for the pleasure of keeping it.
Right. Now, I'm gonna ask you a question, and then if you want to think about it, cool. But with the reptile bans that are happening, I love the reptile hobby, and I don't want to see it go anywhere. So I'm kind of curious. You have been here in the hobby for so long. What do you think there are? What are some of the things that you think we as a hobby in as a whole can improve on?
Number one is cohesiveness, being better as a group. I know this dude, he likes to say that we love everybody. That's you, Derek. We love everybody, right?
Right.
I wish it was that way. There's a lot of infighting and negativity in the hobby. I'm sure you're aware. And you get to have these cliques, and you get to have, it's social media driven. This group hates that group, and this guy is not popular. Jay Brewer, more successful than he's ever been, but a lot of herpers don't care for him, don't like him. And I think that's misguided. And I think that's unnecessary vitriol Jay's way. Jay bust his ass. He works hard to be that successful. And like I touched on earlier with you in conversation, if you don't like what Jay's doing, cool. It's not for you then. There's nothing wrong with that. Whatever you like, follow that shit. Cool. Excellent. If this personality is not for you, fine. Don't follow him. That's fine. Let them do. Jay's got a quadrillion followers on social media. He's doing something right that people dig. And I can appreciate that because I understand how hard the work is. So I wish that we could be more cohesive and less vitriolic between each other, between factions of the reptile world. Now, there are bad guys in our industry. There's no question there's bad people that some people rip people off. Some are just crooks. Some people don't give a shit about the animals and they're just churning animals to make money. Yep, that totally exists. But I very rarely see any vitriol that way. I see people hating on folks that I've known forever, that I know personally, are busting their ass and doing.
Yep. I'm sure you'll come. We'll wait for you to come back. While we're here, oh, there you are. You're back. I see you.
So I'm hoping that wasn't me.
Oh, you're fine. You're back.
I know
now.
we had technical difficulties the other night because I was out in the wilderness camping, and I was hoping we could do our interview, and it just never was going to be possible with the signal. But I'm at home now, so what I was saying, Derek, is I know a lot of these folks that have been real successful, and I know how hard they work, and I know how passionate they are for the animals and for their jobs and for their for their goals, and I can really respect that. And you have to recognize that everything is not for you. It does, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You like what you like. I like what I like. But don't spend any negative energy hating on people. Fuck, there's not enough hours in the day to be positive already. You're just going to burn yourself up. You'd be hating on folks. Now, a more academic answer would be support USARK. We do have a voice out there that fights for us on the political side, and it is a real thing. There are constantly legislation moves and laws trying to be made to pass to ban reptiles, whether it's in Florida, whether it's in New York or Ohio or Colorado or wherever it's at. And so USARK is our tip of the spear, no question. And they have to continue to do their work. Phil Goss is a workaholic and largely a one-man operation. And again, he busts his butt to preserve what we have going on. And so supporting him is really important. I've always been a huge supporter of USARK and PJAC as well. We created a program with Shipping Reptiles where you could donate directly to USARK with every shipment. You could pitch in 50 cents, you could pitch in $1. Fuck, Brian Potter used to put in $20 donation to USARK every time he made a shipment. And that impressed the shit out of me because that was serious. Like, you are serious about it. And obviously Brian Potter is the seed of raising more money from USARK than anybody else through any RBC auctions. They've raised well over $1 million, if not $2 million. So his $20, yeah, it's another drop of water in the pond. But when most everybody else is donating $1 at a time, which I deeply appreciate, guys like him are donating $5 or $20 at a shot every time they ship. But that $1 at a time was worth 30 grand, 50 grand, 70 grand a year to USARK from Shipping Reptiles. And, that's significant money. And I was always super proud of that program that we could help. And then, of course, the company that itself, All Pro Shipping, and Pro Exotics and our other companies, we've always been big supporters of USARK. And so I think it's important that everybody steps up and donates something that way, because without USARK there, we might very well not have a hobby or an industry.
Right. I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. Now, because like I said, I like to keep it to an hour 20. I want to talk about red line science. You
Yep.
have your own company, and a lot of people don't know this that Brian Barczyk is part of your company. I want you to talk about some of the products that Red Line Science has right now. Kind of plug yourself right now.
All right. I'm happy to do that. I started Redline Science as a product company after in late 2019, after I ended up splitting with my partner at Shipping Reptiles. And so I wanted to do a product company. I thought we could execute it well, and I thought we could create and develop some interesting products. The long-term goal was to make products for reptiles, aquatics, and horticulture. So I'd like to play the parallels between all three industries because they all have very similar bases. There's a lot of hobby users in reptiles and in aquatics and in horticulture. They all use similar tools. They all use similar heating and lighting things. So I thought we could play across all three industries. And when I formed the company, I thought, well, this is an opportunity to create something new. I could work with some partners that I've always wanted to work with in my career, folks that I've come up with in the industry, and folks that I thought might be interested in partnering with me in this company. And one of them was Barczyk, also Lauren and Anna at Triple L Reptile. We were happy to have them on board, and Barczyk, great to have him on board. And so when I offered them to be partners, they jumped at it. And I said, hey, you got to do minimal work, but I do want your input. I do want your expertise. I think that that strategic partnership, if you're going to choose partners, choose them wisely and see what they're bringing to the table. Brian Barczyk's obviously an expert and a pro at social media and the reach. The Triple L's are experts on the retail side of the business. And so I wanted to bring in these various different partners that could add value to the project and to bring their expertise. John Dagg from JD Constriction, also a partner. And he's just a brilliant guy. I mean, he runs teams of engineers. So I just like the way his mind works. And so we're all able to contribute to the process in developing the company. But product-wise, we started out with some stainless steel stuff. I thought there was an opportunity to improve on the stainless steel in the industry. So, as reptile breeders, we use a lot of hemostats and tongs. But one difference is I wanted to do some different colors. And so we're doing greens and reds and blacks. I just started bringing in white, orange. And what this is, it's a powder coat finish over the top of the stainless steel. And what it does is it actually adds a significant amount of corrosion resistance to the stainless. The stainless in a $10 hemostat is not the best quality. It's not the same as your Rolex watch that you're wearing, Derek. It's a little lower quality stainless. And so it can still rust and it can still corrode. But when we added the powder coat finish to it, I mean, we've done salt tests, and it's on our website, redlinescience.com, literally soaking these in salt water, and they will not corrode, they will not rust at all. And so I thought that would be valuable, especially on the aquatic side, people working with saltwater tanks and stuff. The other thing I did with the hemostats is I took the feedback from different folks, and we made them smaller and lighter in the handle portion. So the finger rings are actually smaller and they're actually closer together. And it makes them more comfortable to use than the same industry standard hemostat we've been using for 40 years. So we call it our signature series. I actually developed them with Matt Most from Sarpamitra, and his 8-year-old daughter put in her 2 cents because she couldn't use the regular hemostats. The rings were too far apart for her little hands. And so she asked if I could make a smaller one. And so I did. It just turns out that all the adults I give them to also prefer this size as well. So the hemostat's not just a color difference, but a size difference. Then we did some scrapers, some cleaning scrapers. One is a blade scraper. It's essentially a plastic razor blade in a handle. Just comes in and out of the handle, and you can use it. We use it in the reptile world to, scrape poop. So it's a poop scraper. But aquatics folk use it in tanks. You can use it. I use it around the house all the time. I keep a couple in my RV. We use them in our kitchen. We've used it to clean our oven. It's just the most handy little tool ever and very inexpensive. And the blades, you replace the blades, easy to do. The other thing we did was these 3 detail scrapers. Again, just a cleaning product that nobody else had brought to the reptile world or aquatics world. Here I've got 3 different tools, 6 different tips, different chisel tips, little super pointed tips. And then what I think is maybe the most significant tip is this radius tip. It's a rounded tip. And so it cleans the edges of the tubs that we all use in our breeder setups. You get the rounded edges of the tubs. The radius tip gets in there and cleans. Again, it cleans poop, but it'll also clean substrate. Again, I use them around the house for cleaning all kinds of stuff. But that camping trip I mentioned that I was just on, where I couldn't get good signal for you, my wife ended up using my cleaning scrapers to clean off the barbecue. So it's not just reptile related stuff, but we did develop them for reptile stuff in mind. Next weekend, I'll be at the St. Louis NARBC show out in St. Louis with Brian Potter and his crew. Should be a great show. I've got a table out there. We'll have all our products. People can come check them out there if they happen to be in the area, happen to be going to the show. You can see them in person. And if you're extra sweet to me, maybe I'll give you some free product too. It always depends.
Amazing.
How I'm
I
feeling.
love that.
Yeah.
While you're here, I want to give you your kudos, man, because, everything that you have put your hand in has just been amazing. Whether it's been, the Reptile Report, whether it's been Redline Science, whether it's been temp guns, bringing temp guns to the market, whether it's been, making, a mite killer more aware, everything you have put your hand in has just blossomed, So I just want to say that you are a legend. I don't know if you know that.
It's weird to hear such things, but when you take a step back in perspective, the time that I've been around, I guess, yes, it's been a lot of time, and I appreciate the recognition and all, but I can tell you, there's been a lot of failures too.
Right. I'm still here. We'll wait for you to come back. This man works for Brian Barchak. He if you have a temp gun, this man is the reason for it. He made temp guns affordable. This is an icon. Welcome back.
Yeah. So what I was saying, and I do want to stress, there's been a lot of failures, Derek. You fuck up and take your lumps, just like everybody else. We've failed and failed at breeding animals. I've killed animals just from being stupid, not knowing what I'm doing. You blow a lot of money trying to develop a business. It's not been a pure golden road by any means. It's hard work to be in this industry, and I can appreciate folks. that have been around for 5 years. That is something in our world. 5 years is an achievement. 10 years is a real.
Oh, you're glitching out on me. Is it me or is it him, you guys? I can't tell, but we'll wait for you to come back.
I'm back.
Okay, I see you. You're back now. Am I glitching? I don't know. I do want to ask, because a good friend of mine is getting ready to go live. So after y'all leave this stream, everybody, please make sure you go check out J&G Reptiles. Amazing guy. Now, I want to give you a hot seat question because we were talking about USARK. I don't know if you were watching when High Desert Pythons wrestled John Feely and tried to raise money for USARK.
Yep.
Now I gotta ask you, hot seat question. If we were to raise some money for you, Sark, who could we get you to wrestle?
Well, my phone just dropped. So ask me again.
I said the hot seat question is if we were trying to raise some money for you, Sark, who could we get Mr. Robin to wrestle?
I mean, I'm interested in rolling with High Desert Antonio for sure. That'd be interesting.
I'm gonna take this segment out and I'm gonna tag him in that.
I've had my time. I spent my time on the mats. I started grappling and doing jiu-jitsu in the 90s. And I did it for years. I have not been consistent for the last 10 years, but I have a few tricks up my sleeve. I have a few go-tos. I'm pretty sure he'd probably catch me anyways. So that would be a big bite to take on him. But I'll fuck Brian Potter up in a quick second.
I'm tagging him in this. I'm tagging him.
He knows.
Now, I got to ask this, man, because you have grew exponentially on Facebook, exponentially on Instagram. Do you have a YouTube? Have you ever thought about making a YouTube?
There is one, but it's not active.
Not active? Okay. I was just curious because we would love to kind of see some of the stuff that you got going on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, the video content is not for me. Like, I don't know how y'all do it. Be consistent on producing content for video. I think it's under Robin Markland or Pro Exotics is the channel, and it's mostly mountain bike videos, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Mr. Brad, thank you. I gotta ask this. You gave me this amazing hour, so I want to ask one more question. What's been, you've been in the hobby for 30 plus years. What's been your favorite part of the hobby?
My favorite part. Probably the family part. Probably the family, the camaraderie. See, I always want, it's a good question, Derek. And I like that you have good questions. I really appreciate that. But it's hard to come up with a great answer off the cuff. But the camaraderie is important. But the other thing that comes to mind is I love to see the evolution of my peers. I love to see folks coming along and be successful. So Justin Kobilka, he used to be a kid in our hobby. Now he's a monster. He's the man in ball pythons. Matt Parks at Pangea Reptile. Again, started out a very young man, and now he's got his own empire. Josh's frogs. Josh was a frog dude in his basement, just hustling frogs. Josh's frogs is an empire now. And I love to see that success. I love to see people working hard. Great folks doing great work. That's always important to me. Triple L. I started out with Triple L in the early 90s. We did a show in San Diego. We each had one table, and you covered it with a bed sheet from your bed. That was the table cover, just a bedcloth. And we had our little animals out in deli cups and stuff. And then the next year, Triple L showed up, and he had screen printed Triple L reptiles on his bed sheet. And I thought, ooh, fancy. Look at him, Mr. Big Shot. And now he's got 6 or 7 stores. He's got a distribution network. He's a monster online, one of the best minds in the industry. 30 years later, I love to see that success. Josh at the Bio Dude, another young up-and-coming guy. He's a young dude. He is full of energy, full of great ideas. And over the past 4 years, he's exploded in size and success. And, actually, honestly, right now, he's tripping over his own success. He's trying to learn the ropes. He's growing so fast. He's experienced a lot of growing pains. And those challenges, I love to see people come head on with those challenges and then overcome them and succeed. So to be able to have this family of folks in our industry, when I go to a show and I see these people that have been in my life for so long, it's very heartwarming. I love to see them be successful, but to be able to see the evolution of these folks over the past 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, in some cases 30 years. You know, Brian Potter was the first big sale I ever made in the reptile world. Brian Potter, early 90s at the Orlando show. He bought a whole clutch of boas from me. And I thought, motherfucker, I made it. I made a fucking sale. Look at me. He bought the entire clutch. It was like $2,000. And I thought, I've never seen this much money in my life. This is success. I was wrong because he ganked me on the price. I was just so excited to sell all 15 animals or whatever it was. I gave him whatever price he asked me for. That's fine. You know, in hindsight, that's fucking hysterical. But yeah, to be able to grow with these folks over these long years, that's very gratifying, very heartwarming. I really appreciate and respect those folks. And then, you know, the folks that have been around longer than me, Tommy Crutchfield, I love his passion. You know, the Barkers have been around forever. I have a deep respect for those folks that have paved the way. Don Hampers, that were doing it, you know, before I was even thinking about what could be possible. Those folks really paved the way, and I have great appreciation for that as well.
I love that. Well, I want to say to you, thank you for the chat. Before we leave, I want to ask you one last question, and it is, you know, you have done, you know, some incredible stuff. You are a titan in the hobby. So I got to ask, is there something that you want to do that you haven't done already?
Yeah, make Redline Science successful.
You already are, man.
No, man, it's just started. I spent way more money than we've made so far. We're just getting rolling. So to wake up 5 or 6 years from now and have something to be proud of, I'd be stoked about that.
I love that, man.
Hey, but Derek, let me ask you some questions.
What's up?
You got a couple minutes, right?
Yeah, what's up?
So you're in Kansas City, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I get from the Brian Potter interview, you haven't gone to any big shows, right?
No.
Okay, what's the first one? What's your target?
Tinley in March.
Really? All right. We'll see you there. We'll see you there. I mean, there's going to be a lot of people to meet. Hey, if I could give you some advice, get there on Thursday if you can.
Oh, I'll be there. I'm going early, VIP.
Yeah, get in Thursday because you need all day Friday to absorb it and to understand it. And then you're going to need all day Saturday and all day Sunday to meet the people you want to meet and see the animals you want to see. It's an amazing event. It's an amazing event. That's a great choice. My other question is, why reptiles? You're pretty new to the game, so why? Why reptiles?
Honestly, my wife pushed me into the hobby, and I'm gonna tell you how. In our home, you know, I made a man cave, if you will, and I kind of told her, I was like, you know, I really want, you know, something for my man cave, and I told her I was thinking about getting either a spider or a snake, and she said, don't get a spider. I can't tolerate that. I'll kill it.
Sure.
And I was like, what? She was like, I could probably tolerate a snake. Get a snake. Don't get a spider. So I ended up getting my first snake, which was a corn snake, and the hobby just grew from there. You know, I just dove head into it, and I loved it.
Okay. What's your dream species then?
My dream species, if I could own any species, you know, money-wise, you know, probably would be a chondro.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a solid choice. I bred chondros back in the day. Awesome animal. I've been bit by plenty of chondros in the day. You know, tangent to that, you know, I love chondros. Chondros are great. Tangent to that, what really turns me on right now when I see it is Amazon basin emeralds.
Yeah.
Emerald tree boas, the Amazon basin, high white stuff. Unbelievable. Fantastic. Love those guys. Okay, 2 more questions. How old are you, Derek?
I am 34.
34. That's still pretty young. Okay, and then...
But I feel like an old man.
I'd love to be 34.
I can remember when I was 19. I'm almost 40.
You're not almost 40. You're almost 35.
I'm almost 40.
By that reasoning, you're almost 60. You're a young man. Hey, so last question, Derek. What's your goal?
I have so many goals. I ultimately want to be a breeder, and I want to be the next male Oprah.
That's a big goal. Hey, man, you know what, though? You're doing a great job. I find your interviews interesting. You ask good questions. As one of your other guests said, you have some fucking unbelievable guests. Good for you. And so keep it up, man. Keep working hard and keep pushing forward and keep that goal right on the tip of your vision. Get after it, man.
I appreciate that. Now, we got to get a part 2 going.
Whenever you're ready. Hey, let's do it around Tinley.
Dude, on site. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm going to hold you to that.
It's big things.
I'm going to hold you to that. All right, I'm going to let you go and get out of here. We definitely going to have to set up a round 2, but this was an amazing podcast. I appreciate you, sir.
Peace out, bud.
I'll text you later.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Amazing podcast, man. This guy is a titan. Has done some amazing things. Almost 1 million followers on Facebook, 100,000 followers on Instagram. If you have a Tim gun right now, it's because of him. He introduced a mite killer, then got sued by Prevenamite, which is crazy because Prevenamite sucks, if you ask me. But just a heavyweight in the game, full of knowledge. We had an amazing podcast. Shout out to everybody in the chat. I love you. My Animal House, Iron Dog, J&G, Venom, Gary, my wife. Love you to death. Moon over Miami. Flex and Python. Everybody. Reptile King, Benjamin Pay. If I forgot anybody, I'm sorry. But we out of here. This is Big Reptile Talk. Everybody, go to J&G's channel. Go show him some love. Great guy. He's going live. Go check him out. This is Big Reptile Talk. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.
You don't start things and not finish them. You don't quit. There's nothing that comes out of quitting besides knowing that you didn't finish. We finish everything. You start it, finish it. If you're going to do it to try to be the best. Not to be better than other people, but to be the best for you. You grind hard so you can play hard. The work you put in will pay off. It could be a year, it could be 30 years, but you keep grinding. Welcome to Big Reptile